Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, I'm excited to bring you along for my spring cleaning routine. And every so often, I like to do a deep clean of my house to really refresh my space and to breathe new life into it. And the spring season, especially as the weather begins to warm up, is really the perfect time to do that. And starting off, I always like to begin with tidying up any surfaces and washing any dishes in the kitchen. But then after that, I'll move on to spraying and wiping down my counters. The kitchen is one of the most frequently used areas in most homes, so especially if you're trying to do a deeper clean of your house, it's important to pay it some special attention. And specifically, I like to try to get into some of those harder to reach corners and wipe down anything that we have sitting on the counters. And whenever I do a deeper clean of our kitchen, one area that I always like to really focus on is our stove range. While wiping it down regularly can help to remove some of the residue, using a proper stovetop cleaner really can make it look brand new, which honestly is an effect I've never been able to achieve by simply wiping it down. With the stovetop and counters finished though, the next thing that I wanted to do was to really do an in-depth cleaning of our kitchen sink. While we do rinse our sink out regularly, it's important to get into all of the nooks and crannies every so often to make sure you don't have any gunk building up. And this can also help to prevent any rust from building up inside of your sink, which is going to extend its life. And if, like us, you use a drying rack to help in the drying of any of your dishes, I would definitely recommend giving this a wipe down as well. And then to finish this off, you can launder any washcloths that you might use, and then give the kitchen faucet a good cleaning. And then the next thing that I like to focus on is wiping down any kitchen cabinets or appliances to remove any dirt that might have accumulated. And while you're doing this, I'd recommend paying special attention to the cupboards below and above the areas where you most frequently prepare food, as these high-use areas are often the first to get messy. And once the cabinets are wiped down, I next like to move on to cleaning the exterior and interior of any kitchen appliances. So I'll wipe down our stove, dishwasher, and fridge, and check inside of each as well to see if it needs to be cleaned. Or at least that's typically what I'll do. This time I did skip that step, as right now our appliances are all less than a month and a half old. And then the last thing I did in our kitchen was just to pour some oil onto our wood cutting board to cure it. With the kitchen done though, don't worry, we'll return to the floors later. It's time to move on to the dining room. Again here, I like to just begin by starting off with the basics and spraying and wiping down our table. Once it's thoroughly sanitized though, I like to move on to wiping down all of our chairs and the table legs. This not only helps to prevent dust from building up, but is also a great opportunity to clean up the remainders of any past spills. I next like to take a bit of time to focus on the plants that I keep in our main living area. Just like furniture, plants can collect dust over time, so it's important to wipe them down every so often to ensure that they stay looking fresh and are best able to absorb the sunlight. Next, I'll move on to our living room. And here, I like to begin by removing any lint from our furniture using this fabric defuzzing tool I got a few years ago. And of course, not to be forgotten is to give a little plumping to the throw pillows we have too. Once I've given our couch and chair a good brushing though, I'll next turn my attention to our coffee table. Like with our counters, I'll remove anything on it before spraying and wiping it down. Again, like with the kitchen, I'll just use this multi-purpose spray from Infuse, which I find works well for virtually every area of our house. And while I'm in the living room, something else I like to do is to sanitize our remotes. As with any other high-touch areas in the home, whenever you're doing a deep clean, it's a good idea to just wipe them down and sanitize them. Next, I'll move on to our media console, removing any wires, putting them away, and then continuing to wipe everything down, moving any objects in the way as needed. Once all of the objects in the main living area are cleaned though, it's time to move on to the windows, walls, and floors. The first thing that I like to do here is to wipe down all of our window sills and remove any dust that might have settled. Next, I'll use this little mitt with just a tiny bit of water on it to remove any dust from our blinds. And after I finish up with the blinds, I next like to move on to our walls and baseboards. With our baseboards, I like to go along them and remove any dust that might have built up. And while I'm at it, if I notice any marks on our walls, I'll try to clean those off as well. But then the final thing that I like to do for our main living space is to take care of the floors. And you'll notice that I very intentionally left this for last. As you're cleaning the various items and surfaces in your home, dust is naturally going to fall to the floor, and so it's important to do this last to make sure that you're not duplicating any work for yourself. That way, you only have to do this once. And like with some of the other tasks we've discussed so far, I like to try to move any possible objects out of the way so that I can get into all of the possible corners. And if you have wood floors like ours, I'd recommend starting off with sweeping your floor to remove any larger particles before moving on to a more in-depth mopping. But of course, as I say that, here I am breaking my own rules. I forgot to wipe down our bar stools earlier, so I took a moment to do that now. Cleaning is far more about improvement than perfection, so give yourself grace if you forget something or do something out of order. After sweeping though, I'll usually next move on to mopping our floor. I've been using this refillable spray mop for almost a year now, and I really love not only how easy it is to use, but also the great job that it does in cleaning our floors. And I'll just use it to go over all the areas we just swept to make sure that my floors are left sparkling. Then the final thing left to do is to vacuum the large rug in our living room. I like to save this for last because most of the other areas in our home are actually carpeted, so I'll just leave the vacuum out once I finish for future use. With the main living area done though, I like to next move on to our bedroom before finishing off with our bathrooms and offices. I like to follow a similar pattern in this space by first removing any objects from surfaces and wiping down the furniture we have. In our bedroom especially, we do keep things pretty minimal, so there isn't much to do here. In the same way, I also like to wipe down our windowsills and dust our blinds. This is something that I'd recommend paying special attention to in your bedroom, as any dust accumulation that happens in that room can affect your sleep and air quality. So doing this a bit more often is advisable. We also have a large mirror in our bedroom, so I always like to spend some time thoroughly cleaning this as well. And I like to pay attention not just to the mirror itself, but also to the sides and the top of the mirror to make sure that those are getting a thorough cleaning too. Once that's finished though, I'll complete my cleaning of the room by wiping down the baseboards and vacuuming. And if you can't tell already, this is a process that repeats itself from room to room. So while in addition to our bedroom, I'll do this for both Christopher and I's offices, I'll spare showing it to you, but just know that it is a part of my deep cleaning routine. There is something about vacuuming though that I've always found so satisfying, and this genuinely is one of my favorite cleaning activities. And before moving on to the bathroom, the last thing that I'll do in our bedroom is to wash all of our sheets. I'll strip the bed, removing not only our sheets, but also our pillows and duvet, giving our mattress an opportunity to breathe. On days where I wash our sheets, this is always something that I like to do, as it gives your mattress a great chance to just air out. And I just quickly threw all of our linens into the washer and used some laundry cleaning strips to wash our clothes. Then I moved on to the bathroom to give that a good cleaning. And especially when cleaning the bathroom, I like to follow that top-down approach I mentioned earlier. So I'll start off by wiping and spraying down the mirror before moving on to our counters and making my way down from there. I find that hair tends to accumulate more here than in any other part of the house. So by working your way down, it can help to prevent future headaches. And one of the areas that I like to dedicate a bit of extra time to when cleaning is the sink faucets, as I find that that's where you get the biggest payoff for a well-cleaned bathroom. But of course, in terms of what actually gets most dirty in the sink area, it's definitely the sink basin, so it's important to give it a thorough scrubbing too. Once that area is clean though, I like to just replace anything that I moved. And I like to pay attention to the details here, wiping down the toothbrush holder if needed, or our soap dispenser too. Then working my way down, I'll remove any dust from the tops of our cabinets and make sure all of the knobs and pulls are sanitized. Then I'll move over to our little powder room and tackle the toilet, really trying to get into and sanitize all of the hard to reach corners. And one trick that I recently learned for cleaning out toilets that I found really interesting relates to cleaning the toilet bowl. And that's that once you've cleaned the inside of the toilet bowl and scrubbed away on the inside, is to leave the little scrub brush suspended like this to allow it to drip dry, which can prevent any of that gross toilet bowl water from showing up wherever you store your brush. The last big thing to clean in our bathroom is our shower. For this area, I swapped out my rag to a new one since I'd used the previous one to clean our toilet, but then got to wiping down all of the tiles in our shower as well as the glass front. And I'll be the first to admit, this is really not fun work. It's really tedious. As quick as these clips might make it feel, this is a job that takes me at least 30 minutes, which fortunately is plenty of time for our little scrub brush to dry, so I just removed it and replaced the toilet lid. Then I spent a couple minutes wiping down the doors, walls, and door frames, removing any dirt or scuffs that I saw, and for whatever reason, there were a lot in this room. Then I finished the space up by wiping down the baseboards in this room, removing the rug to be laundered, and then I swept and mopped the floor. Like with the kitchen, bathrooms are some of the more highly trafficked areas in our homes, and they're definitely one of the areas that can get the most messy, so it's really important to stay on top of cleaning the floor in this room. And then the last thing I did in this space was just to remove our towels so I could wash them. Then I set about cleaning the other rooms in our house. In Christopher and I's offices, I emptied and then wiped down both of our desks. Even though the surface area of desks is often similar to that of tables, this is an area that we tend to wipe down a lot less frequently, which makes it all the more important when you're doing a deep clean of your home. And the exact same thing goes for bookshelves too, especially since they aren't used all that regularly, except perhaps to remove the occasional book. It's doubly important that you spend time wiping these down fully. So that's really the extent of my spring cleaning routine. From here, it's really just about repeating steps that I've already shown you. I did relatively the same thing in our second bathroom as well as Christopher's office. But I hope you enjoyed coming along with me for this spring cleaning routine, and my hope is that it leaves you feeling motivated and inspired to clean your own home. I hope you enjoyed today's video though, and if you did, don't forget to give it a like to let me know that you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!